Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's March 21st. This will be our chart lesson for today, and this will wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Seems like a quick week. Seems like I'm just starting Monday, but things went by really quickly this week. Anyway, strong uptrend today. It's one of those days that just keeps going, and you can see that we traded down a little bit in the overnight, and then maybe looks like right before the 7 o'clock hour, right into the 7 o'clock hour, we reversed and it's just straight up. This is way too strong, so you'd expect it to fold over a little bit, and it actually did a couple of times today. And we finally got a break of the major channel for the day, and then a move to a new high, and then just went flat after that. So basically, for our trading purposes, it was uphill all day. And on these days, uh, don't short these. You just don't short. You're just looking for longs, unless you suddenly turn over and you just get a big trend down. But this was the first break of this two-tier darker channel, so I'd be real leery of taking any shorts in there, and I'd still be looking for longs. When it's this strong, you're usually going to retest your highs on every one of these channels. So just something to keep in mind. If you were going to short, this would be the only place I would say in here, and you really don't want to short into this trend line, and there's just not much that happens after that anyway. Um, so just really no shorts today, and that's what happens to a lot of people. They're steadily trying to pick highs and so forth, and you can see there's three different channels. You got this real tight one, then another tight one, and then we kind of fell over. And there's actually trends within that as well. So somebody asked me the other day what I meant when I said watch your smaller trends and that's just your micro trends, like getting down, like this is a trend right here within this larger channel. And then there's sideways stuff, like there's little ranges and so forth within the bigger pattern. So when I say that, I'm just talking about getting down to a more micro level. So anyway, let's back out. We'll talk about the trades and we'll wrap our week up. Um, this was a nice reversal early on. You probably would have wanted to draw your more micro trend on here as well. There's a little micro trend that kind of shoots up there. Really, you kind of got you're finishing off this downtrend. Notice there's a channel coming down. You get a break here. You actually get two legs up, and then you get one more little push, and then it sells off. And usually, I always get that last little push, just like here. You made a new low, and then you get that last little push that reverses. When this reversed here, you can see there's a double bottom. You're a little bit away from the EMA, so if you want to be really aggressive, you might take that trade back to the EMA. I don't recommend people trying to pick bottoms and tops though, because most people can't do it, and they'll get it wrong, and they'll have a bunch of losing trades. But if you catch this one trade, you may be able to ride this out all day, and that's the beauty of catching these. But really, you're better off to wait on the reversal pattern. There's a higher low right here, but you don't want to go long right into that EMA. That's always dangerous. Plus, look, there's a little double top already across there. So that's dangerous. Wait on the reversal. When it shoots through and pulls back and gives you an instant failed second entry long, when it broke higher here, that's where I'd be looking to enter. That's your safer, more realistic place to enter, that gives you a little more proof that, hey, the market has reversed here, and or at least even if it's only temporary, it's reversed. And look at this thing go. And if you enter it in there, I really don't see any good places to enter in here. We're not coming back to the trend line. You actually might have drawn a short-term trend line up through here. There is one, you see that, but I'm afraid of that one. I think you're better off to what I did was wait until we got a little price action, and I found one off the top, what looked like the right one off the top, then I drug it down. And it did come back into play here. It's hard to say if that's correct or not. Maybe you were better off to treat this like a spiking channel. Well, I can never get the right one. And you can see that's in play right there. It still really gives you the same thing as my channel. You get your break here and you just kind of fold over. But this would have been something to look at. It's much easier to find this after the fact. And you can see that looks fairly valid up there. And you actually get an overshoot. So that tells you it's probably going to get a break rather quickly. So if you saw it like that, that's okay too. That might have given you a little bit of incentive to maybe want to take one of these other entries. But when you're getting that far away from the EMA for that period of time, it just gets a little bit. It's always dangerous entering. So we finally came back to this trend line right here, and by this time there's a lot of evidence this is a strong trend. I marked it green, but I'm not crazy about it. That's really the first correction. Notice you get these little corrections. There's not much of a correction. That's the first correction where you actually get some bearish bar, more than one bearish bar, and it is right off what I actually what I did was I had this drawn over here, and I just moved it down later on when I got that first correction right there, and that's how I found that. And actually, you could actually get it off the high, those first two swings off the high first, and then drag it over, so you could get it that way as well. A couple of different ways to do it there. But anyway, then we start moving up, and notice what happens right here. There's a you draw that trend line off those first two swings. And the reason I like this one is because it's another failure. There's the first entry. There's actually a little tick lower right there, but that's still one move up. And so I treated that like a failed second entry short, a nice little bullish bar, but the confirmation of that flatter trend line. That's how I saw that. And that turns out to be a good trade. And you know, once you figure out you got a strong trend here, you just about have to take the trades, because if you wait on a correction, they never really come. You finally start to get a little correction up here when it goes a little flatter, but even then there's not a lot of big ones, you know, until way up here late in the morning. So you just have to take these, and you know, especially when you get second entries. And notice what happens here. You're coming back first entry, you pull back second entry, and you get a little break of this trend line, and it's really close to the EMA. So I like that one. You're probably going to try to make a new high, and you move, and that's actually makes a double bottom. Notice you had a little correction right there, so it's like a little double test too. That's another reason I like that one. Then you move on up, and then we're just kind of going sideways, and you've actually had your break here and a new high. And when you can't go higher, but don't try to short this, even though you could have got a short out of there, don't try to take it. But you're coming back, and actually the way I got this trend line was I originally drew it off these highs right here, and then so I drug it down to here, but it turns out that's just a midline up there. And if you move it up, you can see it turns out there's a midline up there instead. But that's how I originally got that. And so when it comes back to that trend line, notice you got a little trend moving down. You get a break, move to a new low, and then you get a nice bullish bar right there, right off where you're looking for that trend to reestablish itself. So I like going long right there. Runs up, pulls back, gives you a higher low right off the EMA, another nice bullish bar. There is a little bit of resistance here, so that one I almost wanted to make it green, but with all this overshoot up here and the fact this is coming up, you had to think that, hey, this thing is much higher. So at this point, I still would have had this up here, and it really wouldn't have been an overshoot. So you're not up to that trend line yet, even though it turns out to be a midline. That early, you would still be looking at that as possibly the upper side here instead of this midline. So, but notice how you bounce off of it, hit it again and bounce off of it. So now you just got to be leery until you come back to the trend line, And this is a double top, so first entry, second entry, now you got a little room, and this time it takes off. Um, there's a lower high right here, but that's just more sideways, and we haven't been able to get through that line, so I don't recommend going long there. But if you went long here, you might have been able to ride this all the way. Then of course you get this little trend back, you get a break. There's actually a little bounce right there, but you're below, everything's back below here. And this is when you would figure out that, hey, there's probably another line up here, and maybe this is a midline. Because if you drag it up there, this fits right in the middle. And so you got to be a little bit leery of going long right in here. And then it comes on down. But now it makes a little reversal pattern. Look at that low and a higher low, and then it pulls back and makes a failed second entry short. That little trap will probably get you through there. And there it goes. And now it gets up on the other side. And it's tempting to go long right there because you're probably going to this other side. It's better to wait on it, see if you get another little pullback. And there's also, like I said, that little shorter term trend in there. When it comes back, the only problem here is it's not a very good signal bar. So this one's a possibility. You could argue for that to be green. And if you had a good signal bar here, I'd probably take that trade. And then it runs back up to the top, and you get a little overshoot up here this time. And now you're working down. And this is where, even though there's some short opportunities here, I wouldn't take these, because look how many times we bounced up in through here, and it could happen again. So this is a strong trend. So especially with a little bit of close outside there, there's a chance that it doesn't make it back down here before it reverses. And I put this arrow here because somebody asked me about a trade. They said they had a second entry on my chart about 11:10, and so they didn't send me a picture, so I can only assume they were talking about here. But as you see on my chart, there's not a second entry there. You might look at one right here. Maybe it was right here, first entry, but that's not necessarily that's just more sideways. So only thing I could assume was they had something here, and maybe they had a little tick higher. But we just came off the very high here, and now you're right in the midline, and you're actually below the EMA. So I would sit tight here. I wouldn't take a long in there, especially with this overshoot up here. I mean, that's not a real strong overshoot, but this thing's been going straight up, and there's another thing to look at here too. Got one leg up, and as you can see, you got another measured leg up right there, and that's after a break of both of these. So let's just measure this exactly and see how close that is. I didn't quite get it exact. It looks like it's probably a perfect measured move, and you can see that all really to the tick measured move. And so that's another concern. You're probably going to get a bigger correction here, probably at least 2 legs. And it looks like that's leg 1, and then there's leg 2 down to here. It actually goes further than that. So that's another reason you're probably going to see a second leg here. But anyway, you want some idea that it reversed. Notice that you're coming down and you get that first entry, second entry. Even this one, I made this one blue, but it's really, it really probably should be green. I'm going to go ahead and change it. I went back and forth. Originally had it green, then I made it blue. Where'd my green go? But I really think it should be green because you're really going sideways there. You got several bars stacking up, and you're still below the EMA. And even though you got a little close outside there, the new low, it's not real convincing. So there's a good chance that this thing could turn up and then turn back down again. It is a trap, though, on a strong trend day, and you can see it probably trap people. Look at it take off. And what it is, you started getting all these people picking up, trying to pick a top, and then suddenly it reverses, and they all got to exit again. And that's why I like that trap right there, because you figure all the people trying to pick the highs, and you can see how it takes off right. That's when you know people are trapped by how fast it takes off. Uh, and you can see that thing really rocketed up real fast. And then you try to go short once, you try to go short twice, and you actually have a trend line working up through here, and it bounces right off of it. And that's a second entry long too. It's a failed second entry short, but better than that, pull back first entry, pull back second entry, right at a key entry point. So I like going long there. Then it comes back again to the trend line and gives you another bullish bar. You probably wouldn't have got in that one. It takes off really fast and gaps. But you get a higher low right here, right at the midline. And you figure this thing's going to at least try to retest this high. But it just keeps on going. And this, you could have ridden this. You would have got a runner here. If you were able to get in this one, you'd have to use a limit order for sure, because it just closes and opens instantly. And I'm not sure if it would have backed up enough to fill it or not. It just depends. Your chart might be a little bit different. But then it comes back again to the main trend line and gives you another bullish bar right at the 2 o'clock hour. And you might look how bullish that is, and guaranteed you got people trying to pick tops again. So that might be another good one that you take, since it's just in the 2 o'clock hour. But yeah, it's all uphill today. Only possibility of any shorts was in here, and as I showed you, there's just nothing safe in there the way that played out. So I don't see any reason to take any shorts today. Just stay with the trend, and just keep working higher. And one thing you might look at was, like I said, you've got this trend and this trend with a break here, and then you get a couple of measured legs up. You really moved on up here before you got a couple of measured legs. So, but you could have found this channel by that point, and people are starting to realize this thing's all uphill. But again, I wouldn't take any longs in here that I see that I like, but I wouldn't take any shorts either. So just keep that in mind. Don't short a day like this unless you get a nice bigger trend that just keeps working lower. The only real place that you had a decent possible short was right here, and even then you didn't get a good signal bar. But notice that new low, first entry, second entry. If you'd had a big bearish bar, that would be the only place I would consider going short, in the least. But you don't get a very good signal bar, and it would have reversed on you real quick. So it's just a short trap is all it is, really. But anyway, that's what I saw today. Fairly straightforward day. Lots of trades, lots of runners here. Just about every one of these trades would have caught a runner. So that's the kind of day you want. It doesn't take but one or two really good trades to do well on a day like that. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. That's going to do it for the week. We'll be back again Monday, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.